Tom Lee just went on to CNBC and talked about the state of the market, saying that he thinks this is really the worst of it. Between now and maybe 48 hours from now, April 2nd, when Trump announces tariffs, I want to play the clip for you. You can make your own decisions, but there is something really interesting, a really interesting chart too that I want to talk about later, because it's the worst quarter in 23 years for American stocks versus other stocks. So let's get into it. Hit subscribe if you want to see future videos. Let me know if you like Tom Lee down below in the comment section. If you do want to trade crypto, there are links to BTCC, BTUNIX, WEEX, and Blowfin. And yeah, let's get into it.
Tom Lee is head of research at Fundstrat and chief investment officer of Fundstrat Capital, as well as a CNBC contributor. At the time, I think you were talking about some of the people that work in your shop too, some of the technical people, and you were of the view that we were at least close to making a bottom. And off camera, we were talking, I said, maybe in terms of timing, it was about a month early, but in terms of how far the markets actually went down, you're not off by that much. I think the SP was down about 6%. It's now, looks like it's going to be, if it opens where it is right now, it'll be in correction territory again, down 10. But you have the same kind of feeling for this week that some of the underpinnings are in for a real bottom, for a tradable bottom or a real bottom?
Yeah, I mean, both. I mean, if obviously it doesn't feel this way because over the weekend futures came under pressure, but we know markets are really oversold. We know that investors have had a lot of de-risking. And this week, I think into April 2nd, investors have three things on their minds. You know, one is they just don't know what the tariffs look like. They don't know if it's going to damage the economy. And I think third, many are just a little terrified of the policies of the White House. But post Wednesday, I think markets are going to have some visibility, and that allows us to take some of the selling pressure off. So yes, I think it's possible that instead of us breaking down here and seeing markets under further pressure, we're actually got the right pieces
buy though into this without knowing what's on the other side of it? That is the fundamental question that people are sitting around trying to figure out today and tomorrow.
That's right. It's an interminable wait for people because it is still 3 days and they're fearful that we could have 3 days of down 2%. But I kind of agree with Larry Fink. I think the U.S. is going to come out of this okay. I mean, Brexit's an example. You know, Brexit happened and the UK economy emerged okay. It didn't have a huge recession and the stock market did okay. So for investors today, over the weekend, we had so many thinking the economy is going to completely fall off the rails after Wednesday.
Well, people are starting to say slowing growth and persistent inflation. So you put those together and you get the stagflation. Yeah, that's death for.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of distortions of the economy now, right? Because we know people are buying cars and wine ahead of tariffs, and that's creating inflation.
Hopefully, they're not doing it the same, you know, cars and the wine.
Do you think it's pushing up our growth numbers that we're seeing at this point between retail sales and other places, or is it too small to distort things on that great of a level?
I think it's possible economists are only dialing in the negative consequences so far, but not the positive, because rates are down and gasoline's down, and there could be some pull forward of demand. So we might end up having better growth, so less stag, and maybe the inflation stuff is more distorting, and so it's not as stagflationary.
You've had some of your recent calls that turned out to be prescient, bullish calls had to do with inflation not being as bad as people feared. Is that still what you think? Because some of the numbers have at least given a head fake that maybe it's still around, and you throw in tariffs. We just heard what Goldman Sachs say, 0.5 point higher on the PCE than they thought previously, and 3.5 on the PCE is not going to allow the Fed to relax.
I mean, yeah, it's interesting because Goldman did raise their inflation forecast, but then they're talking about more rate cuts.
I know, which is because of growth concerns.
Yes, and I think we'll have a glimpse of what Fed Chair Powell's thinking because he's speaking Friday after the jobs report. And I do think that it remains a more dovish Fed than many expect. I mean, I think that's what was revealed after the March FOMC meeting. And not them saying it's going to put a reversal of markets here, but I think investors are a little too scared heading into winter.
Bitcoin's testing recent near-term lows, I guess, again. It's been under 80. It's not quite there yet. It definitely is a risk-off trade, and when the NASDAQ goes down, Bitcoin seems to go down. But it also really likes the idea of more Fed rate cuts or the Fed being more lenient. So if we get that on Friday, is this a decent time to be stacking?
I think so.
You do at 80.
Yeah, I think, part of this was Bitcoin seasonally was just not going to be attractive until after March ends. And now we're finally exiting March. And so I think not only is the calendar looking better, but as you're saying, Fed and central banks are easing, QT's ending. I think that with positive Washington sort of tailwinds means I think Bitcoin can do well to the end of the year.
Right. People love it when I ask you what your end target is on Bitcoin.
Yeah, and
makes people very excited.
Yes, and I mean,
one crazy high again.
I think it's still 150 or higher as possible. Okay. I know it doesn't feel like it, but once we get through this tariff and that agenda around tariffs, markets can look forward to things that could be positive.
Do you agree with what Larry Fink said just about the idea that the dollar could suffer as a result?
They wanted
Bitcoin. Yeah.
Yes, I mean, I'd say that Washington understands that too. That's why stablecoin, really getting the right sort of legislation for stablecoin is important, because in crypto, when it comes to stablecoins, the dollar is way more dominant there than it is in traditional markets. So I think you actually kind of protect the dollar with stablecoin legislation.
Do you have a viewpoint on sorting coin, or you don't? I've added that to mine.
Now, Tom Lee calling for $150,000 Bitcoin by the end of the year. I like that he still has conviction. A lot of retail investors, I feel like, are losing conviction right now. But in my mind, this is a pretty great time to accumulate. There's a lot of uncertainty, but yet things don't look that bad, in my opinion. And I think they could rebound very quickly. Of course, make your own decision. You can see the worst quarter for U.S. stocks relative to the rest of the world in 23 years. You can pause it. You can take a look at it. Yeah, the fact is, if you're buying stocks or even buying crypto right now, you are seeing a big discount from where we were just a few months ago. Let me know your thoughts down below. Thank you so much. Check out the links, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.